Good evening everybody and welcome. My name's Peter Maddison. Many of you would know me as an architect and maybe the host of Grand Designs Australia. But another thing very close to my heart is being ambassador for an Open House Melbourne. In fact, this is my 7th year as the ambassador. I'm here this evening with my guests in this beautiful historic Victorian Trades Hall, beautifully restored by Lovell Shen Architecture and Heritage, to launch this year's building list for Open House Melbourne weekend, coming up on July 25 and 26. Before I go any further though, I'd like to stop and acknowledge that Open House Melbourne's program exists on what was, and always will be, the land of the people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to elders past, present and future, as well as to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the wider Melbourne community and beyond. Indigenous sovereignty has never been ceded in Australia, and we try to be mindful of this in everything we do, given our focus on the modern built environment. In planning tonight's event, we've been very mindful of the social distancing requirements that are currently in place, and we've taken a number of measures to ensure we're all working safely here. Here at the Trades Hall, we have a minimal number of people on site. In fact, I can count about 4 people over there and 3 of us sitting here, total, in this lovely big room. So, several hygiene stations are in place, and like so many other working from home, all of the planning for tonight's event has been conducted over online meetings from our bedrooms and so forth. We send our best wishes to everyone who is tuning in tonight, and thank you again for attending. I'll introduce you to our guests in a moment, but I do want to briefly mention this amazing space we're in here tonight. We are coming to you live from Solidarity Hall in Carlton's historic Trades Hall, the home of organised labour in Melbourne for over 160 years. The complex was constructed over 10 stages between 1874 and 1963 and is the oldest continuously active union building in the world. Melbourne's got very strong roots, hasn't it? Aptly named People's Place, Trades Hall is one of the most historic buildings in Melbourne that was built on the back of those struggling for the 8-hour day. Featured in this year's weekend program, audiences will gain digital access to the old council chambers not seen by the public since conservation works commenced in 2019. By the public since 2019, to restore its spectacular mid-1880s splendour. On the weekend, members of Lovell Shen Architecture and Heritage teams will be giving a live Q&A on the restoration story of this building. Now this building I looked at for many years being a student at RMIT going up and down Lygon Street, and it's a Reed and Barnes building which they also designed the Melbourne Exhibition Centre, and it's a very solid building, but being in here opens the door to another appreciation of what is one of Melbourne's icons. Our guest speakers, I have Victoria Bennett and Trent Clues de Castella with me tonight. Welcome.
Hey. Hi.
So I'll talk a little bit about Victoria first, and she's the Open House Melbourne Business and Program Manager. Victoria has qualifications in fine arts and photography. Victoria has contributed for over a decade to Melbourne's cultural and arts community. She's a wealth of experience organising independent contemporary arts programs through to large-scale citywide events, having been with Open House Melbourne as a business and program manager for close to 5 years now. Trent is co-founder and CEO of PHORIA. With a background in psychology and virtual reality, I looked at that and said, wow, what a combo. Trent's focus is on pioneering human experience for positive effect. As co-founder and CEO of PHORIA, Trent has invested the last decade of his career towards growing a team of change makers that harness immersive technology for social and environmental impact. Welcome, Trent.
Good to be here.
Have a fairly freewheeling conversation about what makes this year's program, and hopefully we'll be able to excite the audience about what's happening, Victoria. So I guess just looking as an overview of this year's event, what is it that's different, and how are we going to approach Open House this year compared to any other years, given the COVID problem we have here?
Well, this year you'll be able to experience all of Open House from the comfort of your own home. So what's different this year is no queues, no bad weather, no wind or rain, but Melbourne will still be just as open as it always is for Open House Melbourne.
And so how do people tune in and what are they going to see if they tune in on the weekend?
They can tune in by going to our website. That is the first stop to access all of the information. They're going to see Australia's largest collection of VR building tours documented of any city. So almost 50 in total. We will have a number of events, lots of old favourites, new buildings, a lot more content that we would normally have on our website, which means a lot of video. We've got podcasts. We've basically got everything that you need to take a deep dive into some of your, most favourite buildings of Melbourne.
So with say 90 buildings, and I think you said earlier to me 110 buildings and events,
yep.
It's a fairly full program.
It is.
And so this year it's all going to be viewed online, and I'm just wondering, we look at a lot of things online, and this year we've tried to do something a bit different to really engage people that are sitting at home, and this is where Trent's come in. And Trent, with the technology, what are people going to see that's so different to what they've seen before?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we've been working with immersive technology for coming up to 7 years now, and quickly, I think about 1 or 2 years in, we realised the power of these tools to really help us perceive space from anywhere in the world at any time, as if we're physically there. And so we've been working with the Open House Melbourne team to create an amazing catalogue of virtual spaces where we've gone in, three-dimensionally scanned these spaces and created interactive virtual tours. So the idea is you take complete control as a visitor. You can go wherever you want to go. You can jump in, change your perspective, come out from above, see it as a three-dimensional dollhouse, see it in ways that you couldn't actually even if you were physically there, which is great. And like we said, yeah, no queues, and you can be there for as long as you want, really.
You can linger. No one's going to kick you out.
No one's going to kick you out.
The owners will never know.
Yeah.
So this idea of being able to go inside, how does that work? I'm looking at my flat screen. How do I dive into that building, and how do I look? Do I have to stay with is there a guided tour guide taking me around? Is there a voice track I'm listening to? And how do I look at the ceiling when I'm listening to someone talking? How does all that happen?
Yeah, definitely. So firstly, it works on any single device, your phone, desktop, tablet, and it's all web-based, so you don't need to install anything, really accessible. And the way it basically works is from the website, effectively, you'll be able to see some of the available virtual tours. Click on it, it will load in about a couple seconds, and then it is pretty intuitive on your smartphone. I'm sure we're all used to it today and how we navigate the world online as it is. And basically you just tap to navigate wherever you want to go. It is fully 360, so it's really just like a panorama, Google Street View, you can look all around. And then there's also these different perspectives where you can actually hit these icons down the bottom. And interestingly as well, there's an option to see it in virtual reality at the same time as well.
Okay, so I want to understand this, Victoria. So I can jump in and look around the rooms. I can leave the person taking me on the tour. But virtual reality means that you have to put a headset on. Mm-hmm. You have to own a headset. Do you plug the headset into your laptop, into your desktop unit?
Yeah, sure. So I guess there's many different types of headsets out there, but this specifically is web VR. So you don't need to install anything. You can run it on your phone. You hit a little icon, and then it'll actually split the screen into two camera perspectives, and then you can use Google Cardboard. It's like a $2 headset. You can buy that off eBay.
$2?
Pretty cheap, cost effective.
And it's like a pair of sunglasses you put on with a strap at the back?
This one's just like a little flat pack cardboard headset. There are other ones you can get online.
And you put your phone onto the front of it?
Yeah, it basically just slots in and sits in place and then uses your phone's gyroscope. And so it literally just feels like you're there. You can then focus on where you want to go, and you'll then navigate through the space. And obviously that's just one option. It's pretty accessible across any device, really.
And so how many buildings, places that are on the program have taken up the option of going to this technology?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're looking up to about 50 spaces, which is incredible. We've never seen a catalogue as extensive as the ones that we've created for Open House Melbourne. It's absolutely phenomenal.
And so is this building one of the buildings?
That is a good question. I do believe so.
It is, yes.
Yeah. So if you have a look at this building, It's quite extraordinary. Lovell Shen have done an incredible job, and to get in here, we're very special. I'm very lucky to be here tonight. I've been dying to get in here ever since I was a student. But if you happen to pan up and have a look behind us, Lovell Shen have restored this building over a long period of time. They got an architecture award this year for heritage at the Australian Institute of Architects Awards. And I understand the wall behind us was all covered by paint. And you can see the past presidents listed from, I think it's 1882 up to 1969. And you can imagine how prestigious this facility would have been and how special it would have been. And it feels like you're in the bowels of the union movement here. It's solid and it's austere also, which is kind of a part of the union movement's grassroots level. You know, there's a lot of very straightforward people that would have come to this building. I can almost hear Bob Hawke laughing in the corner, and it has this wonderful ambience about it. And you know, you can't really, you're not going to be able to see that unless you go to a virtual reality tour and you're able to look at this sort of stuff, which you can't do just with photographs in 2D. So I'm imagining this year places like this will really come alive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so for this building, it's a rabbit warren. It's a very complex building. What do we say? There's built over 10 different renovations to it. So would you go to, in this building, for instance, would you go to all the spaces, or would you concentrate on a couple of spaces and take the visitors to those?
Yeah, I think each space is quite unique. What we find generally is, on one hand you want to try and reveal some of maybe the hidden nooks and crannies that people couldn't necessarily discover on a regular basis. But then as well, it's also what is presentable and available. Sometimes spaces are still being worked on. So I think each space will be quite unique in terms of the virtual tours.
And would you be able to see that sort of detail?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually,
so if I wanted to find out who was the president in 1961, I could go up there and look at that board.
Without a doubt. So you can actually zoom in. I think it's about 8K still imagery, so you can actually zoom into a lot of detail. You can actually walk through some museums as an example and read the plaque on the walls and stuff like that.
Victoria, what makes this year different from other years in terms of the program? What's the content? What's going to be different about it?
Well, we're going to be running a longer campaign to start with, so you'll actually get to enjoy this content for a lot longer than you would normally. Instead of it being over in just one weekend, we're going to be running everything through till the end of August. It is all digital, so you won't be out in the streets this year. It's really about having more time to digest all of the information that these experts that we work with every year are able to put together for us.
So it's more accessible, obviously. Anyone can go. In past years, to go to a residence, for instance, you had to register very early. There's a limited number of people.
Absolutely.
Shoes off at the front door. The owner's worried about scratching the floorboards, etc. This year, it's a worldwide audience, basically. Anyone can get into some of the residential projects, for instance.
Exactly. Yeah, this will be the first year that everybody is invited into the homes of some of the most, some of the great residential properties that we've got on the program. And we do have some really exciting ones and some new ones. Salter House is a new one that's in the program for the first time this year, and the Lionhouse Museum as well. And I believe one of your properties.
Oh, how kind of you to bring that up. Yes, we have Newry Street available. Lovely little house. Yep. Strongly recommend. And Chocolate Buddha, although it's closed, it's still worth looking at because when we filmed it was open and firing. So that's the difference, isn't it?
It is,
We have unlimited access to
access.
houses and places, whereas before a lot of them were by registration only.
That's right.
And what about events? I mean, we're talking about the buildings and places. Tell me about the event program.
Yeah, well, the event program is always really important for Open House, and it's been, we had a great response from our EOI, from a lot of our collaborators, that were excited to do something, to have conversations, especially, I guess, given everything that's happening. So we've got some great conversations coming up. We've got how COVID has influenced, will influence workplace design conversation happening with Hassel next week. We've also got an engineer who was responsible for, or involved in the My Music Bowl, who will be basically diving into that topic and explaining how that actually, stands up and exists. We have...
was that Robin Boyd's building, the My Music Bowl?
My Music Bowl?
Yeah, not sure.
No, you caught me there.
Alison clearly shaking. See, we're blessed we have the Executive Director of Open House here today, and she's trying to vet what we're saying. No, it's not working very well. So what else is happening?
So we've got other new buildings to the program. We've got the Collingwood Yards, which will be launching to the public for the first time with their virtual tour. So this is the old tech school in Collingwood that's now full of artists and creative businesses. And they've all gotten very involved with providing content for that virtual tour as well. So it'll be a really rich experience. That one's one that I'm particularly excited about.
So there's quite a, and normally we have the speaker series, of course.
Yes.
Is that happening again this year?
It's already happened, but unlike past years, if it had already happened, you would have missed it. This year, you can still catch it online. So yeah, it's up now, and you can see.
How many speakers do we have this year?
We had 5 speakers, and including Lovell Chen speaking about trades halls. So that would be a really good one to catch.
And tell me, with the ability to have high technology and unlimited access, I guess it becomes very alive. The buildings are starting to breathe, and you can see action going on. And I know we spoke earlier about a couple of projects. We're talking about off-air with the CityLink, and we're talking about Parliament House, and how this new technology is going to enhance the experience. Tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the CityLink Traffic Control Centre, which is another new site, I guess, not buildings, new site into the program, would have been pre-booked. So again, it would have been something that was quite limited, but now anyone can access that.
Is that the one by Wood Marsh hanging out over the Eastern Freeway? It looks like a big bubbly bit of...
I don't actually know what the outside of it looks like, to be
It's
honest.
green,
I've seen
very
only the controls.
And you can see it coming down the freeway, don't we? So you're right in there with the guys.
Basically,
and
yeah,
people.
exactly. And one of the engineers who works there will be giving a live Q&A on the Open House weekend as well. So you'll have time between now and then to get in there, explore the VR. There's video, there's extra content, so you can really sort of unpack it and see how it works.
So
and then in preparation for actually being able to ask your questions on the weekend.
So is that going to be live? It's not pre-recorded, or is it?
That'll be live. Yeah, the Q&A on the Open House weekend will be live, and it'll be one of 45 live moments on the Open House weekend. So it's your opportunity to, learn more, ask your questions.
So you've got 45 events.
So
it sounds like it's slippers,
Yep.
warm mug, put your feet up, and you can binge.
Buckle in,
You can binge on that weekend. Okay, and Parliament House, I was fascinated with what you were talking to me earlier about Parliament House. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, Parliament House have approached this in a great way. They've thought, well, we always do tours, it's always very popular, but this year, because we can't have physical access, let's take people where we can't normally take them. So their tours this year, which will also involve a live Q&A after each of them, which will be running on the Open House weekend. You will be able to see the lowering of the chandelier in Queen's Hall, which apparently is amazing and quite the engineering feat, and something that you wouldn't normally see at all. And also they're going to take us up to the balcony that looks over Spring Street, which is a view normally reserved just for the parliamentarians.
That's really getting into the inside, isn't it? Fantastic. Trent, can I ask, teaming up with Open House, it seems like a natural connection. Why have we waited for COVID to do this? Why has COVID brought on the need to? I mean, the technology's already there. I mean, is this a positive thing? I mean, of course, it's not positive holistically, but there are some good stories coming out of this.
Absolutely. I've been spending a lot of time thinking about what the silver linings are through COVID. Obviously, it's hard, we're in the thick of it. But one of the first things, really, the biggest challenge I imagine Open Houses face is the fear of missing out, right? Now, it's one of the first times now that no one needs to miss out.
Is this going to change our program going forward? We're going to no longer have queues?
I think we'll definitely learn. I think we'll definitely incorporate a lot of this in the future. We're not approaching this as a one-off. I think we would like to see our program obviously go back to what you would normally
There
experience.
is something about scratching and smelling, isn't there?
Yeah, but
I'm a
maybe
touchy-feely kind of guy. I don't get that out of a headset, I'm sorry.
but maybe we can have a bit of both, where we can both provide better access, especially for some of these sites that might have physical limitations. So this will be
Well, I
the
guess
most
that's right.
accessible.
There is a very, an access issue,
Yep.
which makes this kind of program compelling.
Yep.
Yeah, without a doubt. At least we actually reached out to Open House. I think maybe doing some work originally with the National Trust, and it just made so much sense. How do you virtualise really what represents our cultural DNA here in Melbourne? And understandably, the times have forced a step change. We like to think of it as a digital awakening of sorts. We're actually being forced to jump online. My nan's using Zoom, and she's jumping into programs that I would never. She's in her 90s now, so yeah, she's plugging along.
I have to get my mother-in-law onto it.
Yeah, well, even still, like as a good example, she's been isolating for 3 months, and I could take her a VR headset, and all of a sudden she was diving underwater and experiencing things that she hasn't even had a chance to do in her whole life in that way. And so I'm really excited to see how this is really embraced. And like you said, it's not going to replace the same, physical sensation of being there, but it's the next best thing. And so I feel like if there's people that can't physically be there, even when it is publicly open, that this is a nice, opportunity for them to really connect.
Yeah, all ages, anywhere in Australia, not just Melbourne.
Anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So normally we'd have 120,000 visitations, say,
Yep.
on a week in
Yep.
previous years. It's going to be interesting to see, and I'm just wondering, are we able to track how many hits we get? Because I'd love to see whether this has changed for good the way people want to connect with our city. And Open House is all about connecting and understanding the great design and great places we have built historically and currently. And it'd be great to see if Melbournians engage with this program more thoroughly than getting their boots on and walking out the front door. Are we able to track that?
Yes, absolutely. And of course, that we will be paying a lot of attention to that to see, how well things have gone, what's worked, what hasn't. I mean, it's a great opportunity to try a lot of new things, but we also need to make sure we're going to learn from it as well.
And of course, this program goes on. Melbourne Open House has gone to other capitals in Australia and Bendigo and Ballarat, country regions. Is this technology, do you think it will connect to those other places?
Absolutely. In fact, we're just starting to work on Bendigo and think about that, because that's the end of October this year. And I haven't even spoken to these guys about it yet. But, but we definitely intend to bring some of what we've learnt from the Melbourne experience. As I said to Bendigo, we will have made the mistakes in Melbourne and we'll bring them what worked.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, we're very blessed here in Melbourne, physically. Both where Melbourne is and the way the architecture of the city's developed. What is it that Melbourne's got a very successful Open House Melbourne program, very well curated, very well supported by industry partners. I'd like you to mention any partners, of course, in our conversation. What is it about Melbourne that makes it so successful and makes more people engage with the city? I'd be interested to know what you think of that.
Yeah, it is incredible. I mean, that's one of the most amazing things about the job, is really just how much our audience loves exploring and learning about Melbourne. I guess we must be a really curious bunch of people, I think, and they never stop kind of wanting to learn and discover more.
Yeah, and so with the online content, can they store some of the information? Or is it going to disappear completely? Can people collect, like postage stamps? Can they collect some of the content and keep it, or is it going? Come the end of August, is it just they're going to pull the pin on it?
Well, we are going to wrap it up at the end of August. But look, there is
so it's all the live, all the recorded speaker series, etc. They'll all be taken down.
Some of those events will live on, and we certainly intend to archive elements of it and bring back some of the virtual tours and build on those in the future. There's definitely some parts of the website. There's people have been very generous in providing downloadable content, so that those elements you'll be able to download.
Architect's plans if I want to.
Yep,
That's
if they've given us.
And so. in terms of the content also, I'm just wondering, is that going to be stored somewhere as an archive?
Yeah, I think it's fully dependent upon the people who own the space and manage the space, but would love to see it be made available for...
Because it is a resource, isn't it? It's been recorded where it hasn't been recorded before.
Exactly.
Exactly. You can do a lot with it as well. So people use it for, whether it is a restoration, all the spatial information inside you can use to plan for that. And then even if it's for something like insurance as well at the same time, there's so many different use cases. Hopefully it just continues to open up.
I think for me, you're seeing buildings and places differently, that you wouldn't have seen it before. And we're talking about Wall Street before we came on air, the way you've done a full VR tour of that. And I saw a still of that, and it's like Wall Street you haven't seen before. Robin Boyd to be blown out of the water. It's his house unwrapped like a present, and it's laying like a piece of Christmas house because it's a compartmentalised house. And you can see the whole thing at one glance. And this is what the technology allows. Yeah,
that's an exceptional actual virtual tour. They've put a lot of love and attention to detail in recreating that, and they've actually gone the extra mile to bring in a lot of additional stories, talking head pieces with some of the people that are really managing. And
so let me be clear on this, Trent. You go to the Robin Boyd house, for instance.
Yep.
And you can go into the room and you can get stories from each room.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the tours you'll see, they actually have little interactive hotspots embedded throughout the tour. And then within these little tags, they can actually be photos, text, videos, things along those lines.
So you can dig down the history as you go around the house.
Yeah, it's a really, really wonderful tour, and they've put a lot of time into it.
And is there voiceover?
It's done in many different ways. So this would actually just be a video where you might meet one of the guides. It could be someone who set up the Robin Boyd Foundation as an example, hear their story for a couple of minutes, and then you keep going along. It's like a little Easter egg hunt throughout the house.
I like that analogy. Even though it's not Easter, I like that analogy. So look, we're getting close to the end. I'd just like to know, is this going to be the way of the future for the way we interact with things? Galleries, museums. Do you see this whole thing growing in the future?
I think so. I think everybody has worked so hard to pivot so quickly, and by everybody, I guess the cultural industries who have had to sort of move in the digital direction, that parts of this will be here to stay. Not all of it, but parts.
Yeah. We're seeing a lot of really interesting changes across many different industries, like museums, without a doubt, are creating these museum exhibitions from home. Or actually, what's really interesting, a lot of the data that we've captured is known as a digital twin, but you can actually imagine, let's say 2021, you could actually be using augmented reality to now guide yourself through the home. You might be able to see, projections of little historical elements and stories that bring something to life that you couldn't actually experience even when you're physically there. So I think that's going to be the new normal moving forward.
Victoria, what's your hot tips for this year?
Go to the website, so openhousemelbourne.org. Start to digest and explore the website.
What's your hot tips? Favourite place to go to?
Definitely the Collingwood Yards. The Robin Boyd, the Trades Hall is going to be an amazing tour as well. And those residential properties, make the most of it. You're not going to be able to get into them necessarily if we go back to the normal sort of small ticket group sizes.
Yep.
So take this opportunity to spend a lot of time with them.
Yeah. And Trent, any hot tips from you?
I personally love both the Melbourne and Collingwood Town Hall. They look incredible, massive, open, vast spaces, and when you actually see them in a dollhouse, you can actually see all the little, almost like jigsaw pieces and how they come together, and it just gives you a new appreciation for these buildings. Open House to me means engaging with Melbourne like you've never done it before. And it sounds like this program, and I congratulate you, Victoria, and Alison, Executive Director, and the whole team for putting something together so quickly, and it's a reflection on how we as Australians are adaptable, we're fairly resilient, and I'm hoping that you, the punter, engages with this program really positively. It's on openhousemelbourne.org is the link, and you go in there and you can negotiate your way around, and it goes live, I understand, it's hopefully early next week.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It's going live at the moment. so it's evolving.
So
but
there's some content on there now?
Yep, you can start exploring. You come back, you know, from Monday next week. It'll all be up. And then, of course, we've got all of those live activations happening on the Open House Melbourne weekend, which is the 25th and 26th.
Yes, and there's events before that as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you need to get online now.
You need to get
start
online
having a
and
look
start
around.
looking. Yep.
Yeah. No hard handbook program this year.
No, all online this year.
They sell like hotcakes, don't they? Normally.
They do.
Yeah, I've got them all lined up on my bookshelf at home because there's such a good almanac of Melbourne's history. So this year you'll have to start saving it, downloading it, and start saving it on a hard drive. So anything else you'd like to wrap up with, Victoria, in terms of the program, the weekend, the events?
Look, I would actually just like to say, I mean, we're here thanking our amazing VR partners, PHORIA, but, you know, Open House doesn't happen by itself. So I would just like to say a special thank you to the City of Melbourne, who have been incredibly supportive this year, especially with the pivot. Also Creative Victoria and our other digital partners that you can't see but are here making us look fantastic tonight, but Unknown Vision. eFront and Studio Kwan, and of course our precinct and practice partners. So
okay, and of course none of this happens without homeowners, owners of buildings, and people in places that we normally never get to see, are able to open up buildings like this and others. That and we must thank those people for being part of this program. And it's been just wonderful for me over the last 7 years seeing this program flourish, going from, what was it, Alison, in the early days? Alison, come in quickly, say hello to everybody. This is Alison, our Executive Director this year. It's Alison's first year. Anything you'd like to wrap up and pass on to our viewers?
I'd just like to thank the team, including yourself, Peter. Couldn't have done it without Vic, Brianna, Addie, Fu, everyone else behind the scenes, our digital partners, eFront, Studio Pain, Unknown Vision. It's been incredible. And I'm hoping it's really bad weather on the weekend of the 25th and 26th, and we all stay home and have a wonderful weekend.
Excellent. So get your slippers on, get the hot chocolate going, put a rug around your shoulders and tune in. It sounds like a rich program. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm going again.
Well, that's it for us here at the Trades Hall. I hope you've enjoyed this little presentation. I've loved being here. I'm going to have a look around after this shuts down. Tune in on the weekend. It's going to be a fantastic thing. And maybe this is the way of the future. Who knows? Thanks very much for having us.
See ya.